August 24th, 410 AD. The hinges of the Salarian gate groan as unknown hands push them open from the inside. Beyond the walls, 40,000 Visigoth warriors stand ready in the pre-dawn darkness. For the first time in 800 years, Rome is about to fall. But what happened in the days and years that followed wasn't the clean, honorable defeat your history books described. The fall of Rome was soaked in blood, poisoned by its own engineering marvel, and betrayed by the very people it trusted to defend it. Welcome to the Midnight Historian, where we uncover the dark truths buried beneath centuries of sanitized history. Today, we're diving into 5 brutal facts about Rome's collapse. Facts about starvation so severe that people turned to the unthinkable. About an empire slowly poisoned by its own engineering marvel, and about slaves worked to death in toxic mines and soldiers who turned their swords on the empire that paid them. This isn't the fall of Rome you learned about in school. This is what really happened when the greatest empire the world had ever seen came crashing down. Brutal fact number 1: the starvation that led to cannibalism. Before the Visigoths ever breached Rome's walls, the city was already devouring itself. Alaric, the Gothic king, understood something crucial about siege warfare. You don't need to break down walls when hunger will do it for you. In 408 AD, he surrounded Rome and cut off every supply route. No grain from Africa, no food from the countryside. Nothing. The Senate initially believed they could outlast him. Rome had weathered sieges before, but this time was different. Daily bread rations were reduced to half, then to a third, then to nothing. The wealthy melted down golden statues to pay Alaric's ransom. 5,000 pounds of gold and 13 tons of silver, just to lift the first siege. But when negotiations with Emperor Honorius failed and Alaric returned, the starvation resumed with a vengeance. Historical accounts describe streets filled with corpses. Plague followed famine, feeding on weakened bodies piling up in alleyways. The city that once boasted a population of 1 million became a graveyard. And then came the reports historians whisper about. During the siege, witnesses recorded disturbing scenes of desperation. One account describes the crowd at the circus ironically demanding landowners fix a price to human meat, since starvation was driving people to unspeakable acts. Church Father Jerome, writing from Bethlehem, later documented reports of cannibalism within the walls during the worst of the famine. In the final days, the distinction between living and dead blurred. Those who survived did so by eating things no one should have to eat. Historical sources suggest the gates were finally opened from within, possibly by insiders who could no longer bear watching their fellow Romans suffer. One account claims a wealthy Roman woman, moved by pity for the starving masses, allowed Alaric's entry. Whether true or legend, the result was the same. The Visigoths who poured through found a city already destroyed by hunger. Brutal fact number 2. Rome's army was its own executioner. Here's something they don't emphasize in history class. By the time Rome fell, there were virtually no actual Romans defending it. The legions, those disciplined soldiers in gleaming armor who once conquered the known world, had been replaced almost entirely by barbarian mercenaries called Foederati. And when the empire finally collapsed, these mercenaries weren't just present at its death, they were holding the knife. It started innocently enough. Rome had always recruited auxiliaries from conquered territories. But by the 4th century, something fundamental had shifted. Plague, civil wars, and declining birth rates had decimated the Roman population. The empire recruited entire Germanic tribes, settling them within Roman borders in exchange for military service. By the mid-4th century, roughly 75,000 soldiers stationed in Gaul were Germanic. These weren't individuals integrated into Roman units. These were whole armies fighting under their own leaders, their own customs, wearing their own clothes and speaking their own languages. The Romans told themselves this was pragmatic. After all, these barbarians were excellent fighters. Generals like Stilicho, himself half Vandal, rose to the highest ranks of Roman military command. But these soldiers had no loyalty to Rome, only to whoever paid them. In 408 AD, Emperor Honorius made a catastrophic decision. Influenced by his advisor Olympius, he ordered the execution of Stilicho and authorized the massacre of barbarian Foederati families living in Roman cities. 30,000 barbarian soldiers fled to join Alaric in Noricum. The army meant to protect Rome had become its enemy. This pattern repeated throughout the empire's final decades. In 476 AD, when the last Western Roman emperor was deposed, it wasn't by foreign invasion. It was by Odoacer, a Foederati commander whose mercenary troops revolted over land and pay. They simply took the empire itself. The bitter irony is inescapable. Rome trained these barbarians in Roman military tactics, equipped them with Roman weapons, taught them Roman siege warfare, and then watched as they used every lesson against their former masters.
Brutal fact number 3. The water that slowly poisoned an empire. Rome's aqueducts were engineering marvels, bringing fresh water from sources nearly 60 miles away to supply the city's fountains, baths, and private homes. But these magnificent structures contained a hidden killer: lead. Miles of lead pipes carried water directly into the homes of Rome's elite. For centuries, the wealthiest, most powerful Romans were slowly poisoning themselves with every drink. Modern research has revealed the extent of the contamination. Studies of sediment from Rome's ancient harbor show tap water contained up to 100 times more lead than natural spring water. Lead levels spiked during the height of the empire and remained elevated for centuries. The Romans used lead everywhere: in plumbing, in cooking vessels, in wine sweeteners, even in cosmetics. Ancient writers like Vitruvius actually warned about lead's dangers. He noted that workers in lead smelting operations suffered from poor health and early death. But the elite largely ignored these warnings. Lead made wine taste sweeter. Lead pipes were easier to work with. The effects were insidious enough that no one connected their declining health to the metal flowing through their lives. The cognitive effects would have been devastating. Lead poisoning causes irritability, poor judgment, difficulty concentrating, and erratic behavior. While modern scholars debate lead's role in Rome's decline, it's worth considering what chronic exposure might have meant for decision-making at the highest levels. The increasingly unstable emperors of Rome's later period may have had many causes, but it's not unreasonable to wonder whether an entire ruling class with compromised cognitive function played some role. Every military strategy, every political negotiation, every crucial moment conducted by elites who were, to varying degrees, slowly being poisoned by the luxuries that marked their status. The slaves working in the lead mines fared even worse. Forced to extract the substance that would poison their masters, they died by the thousands in toxic fumes and collapsing shafts.
Brutal fact number 4. The mines that devoured human lives. Speaking of slaves, let's talk about the foundation upon which Rome's grandeur was built. The empire's wealth came from its mines, vast underground operations extracting gold, silver, copper, and lead. Working in those mines was effectively a death sentence. Roman law had a specific punishment called damnatio ad metalla, condemnation to the mines. It was considered only slightly better than execution because it accomplished the same end, just more slowly. Slaves sent to the mines worked in complete darkness, breathing toxic fumes in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. The silver mines were particularly lethal, filled with noxious gases that destroyed lungs and killed within months. Many mining slaves openly wished for death as release. Ventilation was almost non-existent. Poisonous fumes pooled in the deepest shafts. Cave-ins were common. There were no safety measures, no rest periods, no mercy. Children were forced into the narrowest passages, their small bodies useful for crawling through spaces adults couldn't reach. When they died, in massive numbers, they were simply replaced with fresh captives from Rome's endless wars. The scale was staggering. Scholars estimate hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of enslaved people worked in Roman mines over the empire's centuries. Their life expectancy once assigned to the mines was measured in months. The Roman writer Diodorus Siculus described mining slaves as more dead than alive, their bodies broken, their spirits crushed. This brutal system occasionally produced rebellion. Spartacus, the most famous gladiator slave in Roman history, led a revolt in 73 BC that swelled to over 70,000 followers. For 2 years, they defeated Roman army after army. When Spartacus was finally defeated in 71 BC, his body was never found, but 6,000 of his followers were crucified along the Appian Way from Rome to Capua, roughly 1 cross every 100 feet for over 120 miles. Their bodies were left to rot as a warning.
Brutal fact number 5. The Vandals made the Visigoths look merciful. If you think the sack of 410 AD was bad, wait until you hear about 455 AD. The Vandals, a Germanic tribe that had established a kingdom in North Africa, sailed to Rome under King Genseric, where Alaric had shown some restraint, leaving churches untouched and limiting destruction to 3 days. The Vandals had no such compunctions. The situation was Rome's own fault. Emperor Valentinian III had assassinated his best general, Aetius, who had defeated Attila the Hun, because he feared Aetius was becoming too powerful. Within months, Valentinian himself was murdered. The new emperor, Petronius Maximus, had promised Valentinian's daughter to Genseric's son as part of a peace treaty. When Valentinian died, Maximus declared the treaty void. The Vandals invaded. Maximus tried to flee, but was killed by an angry mob. Rome was defenseless. Pope Leo I met Genseric at the gates and negotiated a deal. The Vandals could plunder, but couldn't burn the city or massacre inhabitants. Genseric agreed, then proceeded to loot Rome for 2 weeks. They stripped the city systematically. The imperial palace was emptied of gold, silver, and furniture. They ransacked the temple of Jupiter, taking treasures that had stood for centuries. They even removed the gilded bronze tiles from the roof. Most significantly, they took the treasures Rome itself had looted from Jerusalem in 70 AD, including the sacred menorah. The Vandals loaded their ships with Rome's wealth and sailed back to Carthage, leaving behind a city so thoroughly plundered that their name became synonymous with mindless destruction. We still use the word vandalism today. And Rome never recovered. There was still technically a Western Roman emperor for another 21 years, but it was a hollow title. The empire was dead. When Odoacer deposed the final emperor, Romulus Augustulus, in 476 AD, he didn't even take the title for himself. What was the point? The empire had been stripped to its bones.
So there you have it, 5 brutal truths about Rome's fall. An empire that starved its capital until people turned to cannibalism, that trusted defense to mercenaries who turned their swords on their employers, that slowly poisoned its elite while working slaves to death in toxic mines, that was sacked twice, each time more thoroughly, and that finally collapsed with a whimper, deposed by a barbarian general who didn't even want the crown. The fall of Rome wasn't a clean death. It was slow, brutal, and soaked in suffering that historians often gloss over. But if we want to understand how empires truly fall, we need to confront these uncomfortable truths. Power built on exploitation eventually consumes itself. Military might means nothing when soldiers have no loyalty, and infrastructure that looks magnificent can be slowly killing you. If this dark chapter of history fascinated you, hit that like button and subscribe to The Midnight Historian for more stories they don't teach you in school. The past was darker than you know, and someone needs to tell you the truth. Remember that empires don't fall because of weakness. They fall because of the brutal realities they spent centuries denying.